Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And joining us here on this fine day is the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, they unveiled a Mandalorian Hot Toys figure at the New York Comic Con, and let me tell you, I'm all a Twitter.
Yeah, you were all excited about that when you came in here. So many pictures of that. It looks great. And also joining us here today is, of course, Miss Chris Carr. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've never heard Rob say brah so many times. Where he's brah, this figure. Your joy is so wonderful, Rob. I'm so excited to be around it.
Many expressions of the phrase brah when he came in here holding up these pictures of these Mandalorian things. But listen, bras, we've got lots of things that we need to talk about here today. We're going to go into those in a bit. But before we get to all that stuff, we're going to start off things with one off the top. And our one off the top we're going to start off with is this. Brand new trailer just dropped, I believe, today for the new Guy Ritchie film, The Gentleman. And I remember, I haven't thought about this for a while. I remember talking about this last year when it was starting to come together, and I haven't thought or talked about it since. So it's like it popped up. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about this. Listen to this cast. Hugh Grant, Henry Golding, who's like the hottest thing in Hollywood right now. He's like appearing in everything at the moment. Colin Farrell, Charlie Hunnam, Matthew McConaughey, and it goes on and on and on. And I will tell you what, this is my favorite trailer I've seen in a while. This is my favorite trailer because, listen, I love Guy Ritchie, and everybody knows I love Guy Ritchie. But like Guy Ritchie at the height of his powers, Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Snatch is like an underrated treasure of the film. It's in my top 20 all-time favorite films, easily. Underrated treasure of a film. And as I'm watching this trailer, and it opens up with Hugh Grant and Charlie Hunnam, all I can think of is, oh my God, first of all, that's Hugh Grant. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, he's Bricktop. Oh my God, he's Bricktop from Snatch. I mean, I don't think he's literally Bricktop, but I mean, it just had that feel. It had that Guy Ritchie feel that I've been waiting for him to get back to for a long time. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love what he did with Aladdin, but it's because of that DNA of his films when you've got Snatch and you've got a Lock, Stock, that when they announced him as doing Aladdin, I was like, well, I love Guy Ritchie, but that seems like an odd choice. And it worked out fantastic. But for him now to come out of Aladdin and get right back to his DNA roots, for me, is awesome. I'll tell you what, dude, I lapped up every single second of this trailer. I loved it. It looks like prime Guy Ritchie. I'm all in on this thing. Rob, what did you think about it?
I'm right there with you. I mean, like you said, it's Snatch, Lock, Stock, and it looks like Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's got that lush...
A little bit of that, yeah.
It just looks incredible, that burnished photography. It just... You know, when did he do this? When he was waiting for the special effects to be done with Aladdin? I mean, how does he make make $1 billion with Aladdin? I think I'm going to go back to my roots and make a crime thriller. It looks wonderful. It looks like the actors are having a great time. It just looks like a really great time at the movies. And man, what cinematography. John, I can't wait for this.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Chris, you just had a chance to watch it for the first time. What did you think of it?
I'm so pumped about this. I had the special edition collector's DVDs of Snatch that came with like cards and stuff. I'm so pumped for this. I love when Guy Ritchie does like a heist kind of movie, a gang kind of movie. I'm really, really pumped. And like you guys were saying, Hugh Grant has taken a turn in this one.
Oh my, he looks great.
I'm so excited to have a not posh, non-blinky Hugh Grant in a movie. I love everything Hugh Grant does. Let's not get that twisted first. But this looks so unique for him, and I am so excited to see him take on this new character.
And it looks like he's having a ball.
Yeah, everyone does. This cast is so stacked. This is crazy.
And
here's amazing.
Here's the other interesting thing. I'm a Sons of Anarchy, one of my favorite shows, in my top 3 all-time favorite television shows. Mm-hmm. I haven't really been wowed by Charlie Hunnam in anything outside of that. Even that one he did with Pattinson, I really haven't been wowed by him in anything outside of that. But I'm watching this trailer, I'm like, oh, he's found a fit here. He's found a fit, because I was buying into him completely in this trailer. I'm excited about this movie, guys. Like, I'm getting chills thinking about it, but maybe that's just because I love, Snatch and Lock, Stock so much. But what about you guys? Have you guys had a chance to see this trailer for The Gentleman yet? It's now like one of my top 10 most anticipated movies. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Maybe it's not your cup of tea, pardon the pun. Jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that being said, let's now move on to our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you'll see a form. Fill out that form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down out of the way, let's move on to our first main topic today. Chris, what is our first main topic today?
First topic is from Preston Walden. Hi, John and gang. Reports have just come out that each MCU show on Disney Plus will have a total budget from $100 to $150 million, $12 to $25 million per episode. This is historic and very exciting. My question is, if successful, do you think this could not only be the norm for Disney, but also for other streaming services such as Netflix and Peacock? Had to get that in there, LOL. Thanks. Do you think this is going to set a precedent?
Well, look, one of the things that everybody's been really excited about when talking about the upcoming MCU properties on Disney Plus was this thing is they're going to have movie budgets. They're going to have movie budgets. And the reality is, no, they don't. Not really, because when everybody thinks of a movie budget, they're thinking, oh, every episode I'm going to see of this thing is going to have $100 million budget. When no, that's not the case. You see, let's go for an argument's sake here that each of these series are going to be 6 episodes. They might be up to 8, but I've heard the number 6. But let's go with 6. Let's go with a low number. 6 episodes. So that basically means you've got each series is going to be 3 2-hour movies in essence, in length, right? If they're spending $150 million on, say, the Hawkeye series, well, that means every 2-hour movie is actually going to be a $50 million budget, not a $150 million budget. That means every episode is going to have like a $25 million budget or a little bit less than that, all that kind of stuff. Now, that is still astronomical for television. Don't get me wrong. All I'm saying is that when I keep hearing the phrases, and I've done this myself, when I keep hearing the phrases of, this series is going to have the budget of a movie, that kind of gives the impression that every time we watch one of the episodes, that episode is going to have a $100 million budget. But it's not. So you're talking 6 episodes, the equivalent of 3 full-length movies having the budget of a MCU movie. That is still unprecedented. That is still very high. Very, very, very few. I think you can count on one hand the number of shows that have even gotten close to those types of budgets. It's still huge. I just want to make sure that as audience members who are used to the MCU and what it has, that we have, not delusions of grandeur that every single episode is going to have, world-class movie visual effects and world-class this and world-class that. It's going to be great for television, but just understand it's not actually full movie budgets when you break it down like that. I don't know, Rob. First of all, this is an incredible amount of money they're going to be spending on these shows. There's no question about that. But I'm not the only one, right? That was a little bit concerned. It's like everybody seems thinking that every single episode is going to have the budget of Ant-Man. It's not. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I got to say, you know what fit Charlie Hunnam really well? Gypsy Danger. The Jaeger Gypsy Danger. I just want to point that out. But I'll tell you, I think you're right. But these are still... they're the budgets of healthy, what used to be healthy studio movies, but they're still very high. And also because they're shooting on the same sets, and I'm sure they're going to amortize costs. I'm very excited about these shows. I saw Elizabeth Olsen was on Jimmy Kimmel the other night, I think Monday night, and she was talking about how she got her job. She couldn't say anything about WandaVision, but she did say something interesting. She said that Kevin Feige came up with the idea of WandaVision himself. It was his idea.
I'm not surprised.
And that when he hired Paul Bettany and to come back and play Vision and her, he met with them separately. Like he called them up and Paul Bettany thought he was going to get fired from the MCU. And she didn't say anything about the show. I just thought that was pretty cool. So, I mean, if you've got Kevin Feige himself calling the actors in to talk, I mean, I think the quality of these shows is going to be of paramount importance to Marvel. And I'm very excited to see what we're going to get. I think, John, this is going to be a way that the Marvel Universe can show they can really stretch the boundaries of what Marvel is going to mean as a brand moving forward. And I think WandaVision is going to be one of those shows. I don't care how much it costs as long as it's good. And I think these are going to be really good.
Oh, but we should care how much it costs. Because if these things do cost too much, it doesn't matter how good they are, they're going to stop. They're going to stop making them. If they start losing money because they're irresponsible with their money and all that kind of stuff, it's going to stop. So as a fan, I care how much it costs because I don't want them to, for lack of a better term, blow their proverbial loads and they realize we're not being cost effective. Now, the question asked, could this become the norm for all the streaming services like Peacock and all that kind of stuff? No, it can't because that's not sustainable. Like when you're MCU properties, you've got some foundational precedent that says we can spend money on this because we really do believe that our MCU content is going to be a huge drawing point to get people to sign up to Disney Plus. So there's cost to benefit ratio there for things like that. When you're doing Lord of the Rings, you can say we have underlying precedents here to show we're going to have cost to benefit ratio that says this is going to bring a lot of people into Amazon Prime who may not already be Amazon Prime members to watch a Lord of the Rings show. But you got to be careful about when you call those shots. There are only so many MCUs, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. There's only so many of those properties you can spend that kind of money on. So no, I don't think this is going to become the norm. I think we're going to see all these streaming services probably have their one crown jewel or something like that where maybe they'll spend this type of MCU money. But I don't think it's going to become the norm across the industry. What do you think about that, Rob?
Well, I think, TV shows, not every TV show obviously is created equal, and not every streaming service is created equal. It really depends. I mean, the one thing about these shows is these actors are going to be a lot more expensive than the actors that are, say, normal TV stars because they're coming off of very expensive feature films. I mean, feature films that were not only expensive to make, but made a lot of money. So that means their quotes rise. And I think that Marvel, they have a really great production methodology in place, and I think they know how to keep costs down, and they'll be able to, like any great science fiction, fantasy, or horror TV show, they amortize their costs because they'll be able to build set pieces and things that they can use across shows. And I think they're gonna actually figure out a way to give us bigger and better TV shows, the likes of which we've never seen before, because of the way they're controlling the production. And the fact that, look, Star Trek shows were able to be, up until Discovery, always reuse set pieces and things. Famously, the engine room of the Voyager, the antimatter intermix chamber, was the intermix chamber from Star Trek the Motion Picture in 1979. So I think, knowing Kevin Feige's affinity for Star Trek, they're probably taking a lot of production cues from the Berman era of Trek, which had 2 shows in production at the same time along with feature films, and they're going to be able to make use of all of this stuff. So I think not only are we going to see shows that are really well made, we're going to see shows that are incredibly cost effectively produced. And I'm excited about that. But I don't think it's going to be the norm for streaming shows. Marvel is unique. It's unique here, as it always has been, and yet there's lessons to be learned. So we'll see.
Guys, the question is, what do you think about that? Do you think like spending this type of money on shows, do you think that become the norm? Do you think they should? Do you think they shouldn't? What do you make of all this? Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down out of the way, let's move on to our second main topic today. Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This question is from Joe M. Hey, John and crew. Happy Spooktober.
Woohoo, it's October.
Yeah. This month is filled with exciting films. From Joker to Zombieland, I'm pretty excited. Speaking of Zombieland, I was wondering, when do you think we're getting a new trailer? The TV spot looks great so far, but they put it out first in July, and the film comes out in a little bit over 2 weeks. We need more than just TV spots and one trailer. Will this mean the movie won't be that good, considering that they have not shown much, or do they want to surprise us? Good sign, bad sign? How you guys feeling?
Well, I mean, look, I've never been one to think that not showing us trailers means the movie's bad. If anything, that if a movie's bad, the studio's going to be even more motivated. We're not going to get a lot of word of mouth, so pump up the marketing to get that opening weekend in. So I've never thought that a lack of a trailer or a lack of a lot of marketing is necessarily an indicator the movie is bad. Not at all. Actually, I think maybe the complete opposite, because they know they've got to get more people in. So I'm not worried about that. Now, sometimes when we get really close to a release date and we haven't seen any trailers, that can raise a question, is something going wrong? Like, and they're not going to make the release date, that sort of thing. But not, does this mean the movie's not good? Because, look, they make the best trailers for the worst movies. I mean, let's be honest here. But you know what? It was after reading this message that I realized, holy crap, this movie isn't 3 months away. And that's kind of what it's been feeling like. It's been feeling to me like this movie is still months away. But you're right, it is opening imminently. And I really have seen very little marketing for this movie. And you would think, now I will admit up front here, I am not a huge fan of the first Zombieland movie. I thought it was cute and I dug it, but I know a lot of people just love this film, and that's awesome. Not me. But still, understanding almost the cult-like status that first one has, understanding now where this, you might make an argument right now that Woody Harrelson is at the height of his powers at the moment. And like when they made the first one, Emma Stone wasn't a multi-time Academy Award nominee and an Academy Award winner. I mean, like, so you've got all this cast, you were able to get them all back, making this movie that a lot of people were asking for a sequel for a long time. I would have just naturally thought and assumed they would do a lot more of a marketing push. And it does seem to me like there's not a lot out there. Here's my first impression, okay? And this could be totally wrong, and I'm not willing to bet any money on this, but here's my first impression. I do not believe this is an indicator to them, or any sort of an indicator that they don't believe that this is a good movie. It may be a great movie, it may be a bad movie, but I don't think lack of a big, heavy, like serious big time marketing push on this movie is an indicator that they don't think it's a good movie. I don't think that at all. I do wonder, though, if it might be an indicator that their studies are showing them they're not actually going to make a lot of money on this movie, and that sinking more money into the marketing may just be money lost. I'm not saying that's 100% what it is, but if my choices are, why are they not doing a lot of marketing? I don't think it's a commentary on the quality of the movie, but it might be that they don't think this is actually going to make all that much regardless, and they don't want to sink any more money into it than necessary at this point. But who knows? This thing could open up to $70 million opening weekend for all I know right now. I mean, that's not the tracking number, but who knows? Rob, number one, do you feel the lack of marketing that I am, or do you feel like, no, you've seen tons of marketing for it? And if you do feel a lack of marketing, what do you think the root cause of that is?
First of all, I thought they did drop a second trailer. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but also I saw Woody Harrelson again I watch a lot of late night talk show clips on YouTube. I saw him promoting the movie.
Well, he just hosted Saturday Night Live this week too.
Yeah, and he was on. He was on Weekend Update. Seth
Meyers.
Seth Meyers, yeah, and he was talking about making the film, and Seth Meyers asked him, "What was it like going back? It's been 10 years," and he said it felt like no time had passed, and he talked about how much fun he was having making the film. And I just, in my mind, I have seen clips for this because I'm excited about it. The last clip. Or maybe I saw something about he's dressed up as Elvis. Woody Harrelson's dressed up as Elvis, and they're in Graceland, and I'm excited. I can't wait to see this movie. And we're so used to these big tentpole movies dropping multiple trailers.
Yes,
but when you have one trailer and it's a lower budgeted film like Zombieland, do you need another trailer? I mean, I don't know. We've got TV spots. They're dropping those TV spots, so they are promoting the film. I'm excited for it, and I feel like there's enough hype out there because I'm aware of it, and just watching Woody Harrelson, I was like, oh, can't wait for Zombieland, and the fact that he was hosting Saturday Night Live, that's something,
But again, that doesn't really cost the studio anything. At least it's very minimal. But I don't know, Chris. Like traditionally speaking, like I think, Rob, you raise a great point that we are just so accustomed to these big tentpole films and their marketing things. Maybe if you take into consideration scale, this isn't so low. But again, to me, I was expecting to see more. Chris, what have you been feeling from this? Do you feel like we've been seeing a lot of marketing for it? And if not, why do you think that is?
I mean, I'm glad we haven't seen a lot of footage from it, honestly, because I want to be surprised when I go in. So many times now you see trailers and it's, well, I don't need to go to that movie. I've seen everything I need to see. And I don't think you need to push this movie that hard. You've got 4 Academy nominated people in a zombie movie, which is fantastic. I was obsessed with the first one. I'm one of those people who was so into Zombieland 1. So the fact that we're getting this double tap movie, I am all in for. I really don't think you need to do the hard push. And Woody is doing his media circuit right now, like Rob brought up. We had him on SNL, which was a great episode, by the way.
It was a good episode.
Good. So fun. He's going on those late night talk shows. I think there's enough out there. It's just, we've been seeing all these huge scale films of, End Games or Spider-Mans or things like that out there. Of course, we're seeing more and more footage for those huge big blockbusters. This was kind of an indie darling that happened to blow up, and it just happens to have this incredible cast still attached to it.
By the way, one of the best lines, I don't watch Saturday Night Live regular anymore. Now I catch like some highlight clips and whatever later. I don't generally watch the show, but one of the best I don't know why I found this so funny, but he was Joe Biden in one of the sketches, right? And he gave this great line. He goes, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm like the plastic straw. I've been around forever. I work, and for some reason, everybody's mad at me now. I just... Which is true, because I hate paper straws. I mean, I'm glad they're moving away from plastic straws, but anyway, that's another rant for another time. Question is, guys, what do you think about Are you looking forward to Zombieland 2? Have you been feeling like there's been a lot of marketing, or is this like, oh my gosh, this is just like, this is opening like any minute now? How are you feeling about that? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our third main topic today. Chris, what is our third main topic today?
Third topic is from Kendra Harris. Hey, John, love the show. Ever since Harry Potter, Twilight, and the Hunger Games ended, movies based on of YA fantasy or sci-fi series have failed to launch a franchise. Harry Potter made $7 billion, Twilight did $3.3 billion, and Hunger Games made $2.9 billion. The only 2 franchises that followed up decently were Maze Runner at $94.9 million and Divergent at $765 million. Nowadays, with comic book movies at the top, it's been harder and harder to launch the next big YA franchise. Could it possibly be due to wrong timing and or the trend being dead? Oh my gosh, is this the end of an era? Will we ever see a sparkly vampire again? Say it ain't so.
Well, look, first of all, I think there's one very important thing to keep in mind. Now, yes, the YA stuff burst onto the scene with 3 very prominent franchises that you pointed out. We had, obviously, Harry Potter, which is the king of them all. You had the Twilight, and you had Hunger Games. And really, we've not seen those things since. And a lot of people have asked the question, does this mean the end of the YA era and all this kind of stuff? And like, now people are sick of YA because now the YA stuff that they try to make isn't successful and all that kind of stuff. I want to propose a much simpler answer to all that. Look at the ones that we were talking about. Harry Potter, Twilight, Hunger Games. All 3 of those things, all right, all 3 of those properties, prior to being movies, were not just popular book series amongst a small demographic of YA readers, okay? These are books that, at the time, I had not read any. I'll tell you to this day, I've not read a single Twilight novel. I've not read a single Harry Potter novel. I did read the Hunger Game novels after I watched the movies. I don't know why I picked those ones, but I did. But prior to seeing them, I hadn't heard of any of them. Sorry, I hadn't read any of them. But I knew about all of them because these 3 book franchises weren't just big amongst their demographic. These 3 book franchises were global phenomenons. You could never have read a YA book in your life, and you totally knew about Twilight. You knew about Twilight. You heard about Twilight. And Twilight was a household name. I mean, Hunger Games, for heaven's sakes. I remember before the movies came out, I was watching an an NBA playoff game, and I remember there was a shot, I remember this clearly, back in the locker room as the teams are getting ready to come out, there's LeBron James sitting on his bench reading a Hunger Games book. And like, it was everywhere. And don't even get started about Harry Potter. That was like one of the most globally dominating novel series of all times. I mean, so you had these three immensely popular, immensely huge household name book franchises that then got translated into movies. Divergent? I never heard of Divergent till they started making the movies. Maze Runner? I never heard of Maze Runner. Now, that's not to say they're not good or anything like that. I'm just saying these were not household names. And so I think we're asking the wrong question, Rob. I think instead of asking, it's like, why did the YA novel to movie fad suddenly die out? Well, they played them all. There were three big dominant ones that everybody knew, and surprise, surprise, they translated well into big box office success. And then there were some other ones that were not household names, and I don't know why any of us would be surprised that they didn't. So, Rob, I don't see it as a trend against YA. I just see it as there were three huge franchises. They got turned into successful movies, and there hasn't been another one since because there hasn't been a franchise with that name value even amongst the general public. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. Maybe I'm looking at a too low-level point of view. But anyway, Rob, how would you address that question about why aren't we seeing more of these at this point?
I think you pretty much nailed it. There was a YA franchise, a book called The Fifth Wave, that they made into a terrible movie with Chloe Grace Moretz.
Again, I'd never heard of it until they made that movie.
I read the book like Hunger Games. I read the first Hunger Games because Stephen King wrote a review of it in Entertainment Weekly. So I picked it up way before and I've read the first book. I'm like, this is going to be a movie. And that was before it became, I'm like, who wouldn't want to make this into a movie? Well, I read The Fifth Wave, and I'm like, my God, it's an alien invasion story. I'm like, this book is awesome. Then the second book was only okay, and the third book sort of betrayed everything I loved about the franchise. They made a movie that I thought was like, how do you mess this up? But I thought they did mess it up. And I think, like you said, the YA franchise has sort of mutated and morphed. It was a YA book when I was young, you know, and while it was an R-rated Stephen King novel.
That's a pretty R-rated.
I've always thought that the YA franchise was sort of strange because when I was like in the 6th grade, I was reading books like Lord of the Rings, you know, which they turned into great movies. And I think the YA moniker itself is sort of a something that came and went. It was of its time, because I think kids, if you're reading, Harry Potter is not sophisticated enough for you when you're 12 and 13. You want to graduate to something else. And if you're going to read Stephen King, and I think Stranger Things, and I think It, the movie series, are reflections of those YA inclinations that have just been played out because there is no more. Once Harry Potter came out and once Twilight came out, those were like your two. Hunger Games brought up the rear. That was sort of the return of the Jedi of the YA franchises. And now, unless you have that global dominating literary force, and of course, then the publishing companies put out every idea under the sun as a YA franchise, hoping they would have that success. But that's played out. It's played out.
Ooh, like, Chris, when you're looking at this, is there a deeper rooted thing? Did people just get tired of the YA movies, or is it more just that, those are the big ones and they already got made into movies? How do you see it?
I feel like it's the latter, yeah. The big guys got made, and has there been a really good YA franchise since? And a few people in the chat, too, and I agree with them. I've never considered Harry Potter really a YA situation. It was a fantasy thing, heavily steeped in Lord of the Rings kind of mythology. And because it was that global phenomenon, like you were saying, I just never read it that way. You know, I never thought, oh, this is a book made for kids, because all the adults in my life were reading it. It was a different situation for me, too, because I grew up with Harry. You know, when he was 11, I was 11, and I got to go on that journey with him. I just don't think some of these movies have had good scripts, though. Even if the source material was decent, like those Fifth Wave books that you brought up, Rob, if those first few books were fantastic, they're just dropping the ball in these scripts. That's really what it comes down to, is the execution of the movie. And if you're not doing that good shift from one medium to the next, you're not going to have a successful franchise, no matter who you have starring in it.
All right, guys. Question here is, what do you think about all that? What would you attribute to the fact that we haven't seen the next Twilight, the next Hunger Games, hell, even the next Harry Potter? What are your thoughts on that? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. Chris, what is our fourth main topic today?
This is from Rizzo Gamer 44. Oh, it's my favorite Muppet. Awesome. Greetings, John. I was thinking about not too long ago, it was revealed to us that RDJ would be coming back in Black Widow. But do we need RDJ and Chris Evans to come back to the MCU? I feel as if RDJ and Chris Evans, their time at Marvel's up. I feel like Marvel just can't let go of the ones that started all, and they can't accept that their stories are finished. Why do you believe that RDJ will be brought back somewhere down the road? Thanks for answering my question. Well, first of all, do you believe that RDJ is being brought back into all these things?
Well, I think the first thing we got to point out here is that, there was a story going around that Robert Downey Jr. is going to appear in Black Widow. We don't know that that's a fact, by the way. Let's just be clear about that. He very well may, and it'll probably be because, he was still alive during the time of the time frame that this Black Widow movie is happening. So that's fine. But we don't know for a fact. There's stories going around about that, but let's just be clear. We don't know that for a fact. As we move into this new phase of the MCU, not to use a pun there, as we move into a new era, let's say, of the MCU, the post-Endgame, the post-Infinity Saga, the post-Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man and Captain America, your two main pillars of the MCU. I think, first of all, let me say this. I think there are several reasons to believe they don't need them. And let me address some of those first before I go into why I think maybe they do. Here's one of the reasons you don't need them. They have built an expansive world. They've built an expansive world in this MCU that goes not now just from one country to another, but from the Earth to the galaxies and the stars above. They've stretched well beyond. Like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans aren't the only movie stars there. Chris Pratt has become one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Tom Holland, at least for now, Spider-Man is still there. I don't think it's going to be for much longer, but for now, he's still there. He's become a big major star. Chris Hemsworth is still going to be there. Maybe not a lot, but he's there. Benedict Cumberbatch is still there. We still have a lot of, from a talent point of view, we still have a lot of A-list powerhouse talent is going to be there. So that's number one. Number two, the stories have evolved beyond the finite. We started with the finite about, save the country, save the planet. Now we've gone well beyond in space. Their narratives have gone out in so many different directions that even if Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, Iron Man and Captain America were still around, I think a lot of the stories would never have them because they just don't need to be there. So when you look at the way that Kevin Feige has cultivated and grown the MCU, both in terms of talent, the characters, and the narrative, I think you can make a very strong argument that the MCU does in fact not need to have Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans there. So there. I believe there's a lot of arguments for that. Now, let's look at the arguments for a second about why they do need them still. The first thing I would point out is this, is what we already said earlier. These are your two most pivotal, foundational characters. I would make the argument that the entire MCU up to this point has been built on the shoulders of those two characters. They have been the driving force narratively. They've been the driving force charismatically. They've been the driving force cult of personality-wise. Everything's really been built on Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. Up to the point that as you get into Infinity War and Endgame, one is more of a Iron Man movie, one's more of a Captain America movie, and even then you get into Civil War, all that kind of stuff. Everything has been built around them. But one of the other things I want to point out is this. When you look at the MCU films and the history of the MCU films, as we look at, say, even beyond the top 5, say, look at the top 7 all-time highest, most successful MCU movies of all time, with the exception of one film, they are all led by Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. Let's take a look at it. These are the 7 biggest MCU films of all time. Avengers Endgame. Now, again, that is a huge ensemble cast, absolutely. But it's mostly built around Captain America and Iron Man. Avengers Infinity War, huge ensemble cast, absolutely. But Iron Man and Cap. The original Marvel's The Avengers, again, built upon the stories of the first Avengers and Iron Man and bringing all that kind of stuff. Again, another huge conglomerate of characters, absolutely. But let's not pretend like those weren't the two most major characters. Same with Age of Ultron. Then we get into Black Panther, which did not have Captain America or Iron Man. So there you go. You have one. But the next most successful one is an Iron Man movie, Iron Man 3. The next most successful one has Captain's name in the title. It's Captain America Civil War, which also is the secondary leading character was Iron Man, was Tony Stark. As you look, if you're trying to make a case, like I think we talked a little bit earlier, Rob, I talked a second ago about you can make a case for why it doesn't need them anymore. I also believe there's a case to be made by why it does. Not only narratively was it built on them, success-wise, the biggest successes of the MCU have been built on these two guys. And now we're moving into an era where they're rolling the dice a bit. We've got the Eternals, which, hey, Guardians of the Galaxy was a risk and it paid off. This is the same kind of risk, and maybe it'll pay off just as big. Even Hawkeye isn't really going to be about the Hawkeye we know. It's going to be about the transition to this new character. It's Shang-Chi. It's a what-if animation series with a little bit of the familiar dropped in there with Doctor Strange and Thor as well as along the way. But I think you can make a strong argument about why they'll be just fine moving forward, and it doesn't need them. But I also think there's a pretty good argument about why, yeah, they still do kind of need them. And we'll see how this turns out. Rob, if you had to make an argument one way or the other, which one would it be? And what are the merits of the opposite view as well?
Well, I think, look, I don't see anybody having the kind of success that culminated with Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And the idea that anybody is supposed to sustain that is something they had to move away from.
Excellent point.
There was
Excellent
no
point.
way they could continue. They couldn't justify it to shareholders. They couldn't justify it to Hollywood. And I think that what they had to do is basically, as you've pointed out before, they have to start over. They have to build their team back up, to use a sports analogy. And they're going to spend the next couple of years building their team. And I think they're going to try and do what they did in the first place. Remember, when Iron Man came out, it was a risk. No one knew if it was going to work. Robert Downey Jr. had his big chance to come back to Hollywood. Marvel was making a movie about a character that wasn't necessarily top tier, even though I've always kind of thought Iron Man was. So they've gone back, and they've already had this success. They've got all this goodwill, and they're doing some things that are different, new, and unique. Black Widow is a prequel, so if Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. show up, and they very well could, it's justified because it's not post-Infinity War and Endgame. So I would buy that. I'd be like, look, they're going to support Scarlett Johansson, and why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they show up in that movie? What a cool thing for both of those actors to do for their compatriot through 10 years of the Avengers. But what I think we're going to get is, can they match the success of Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans? Big, big, big question, John. But I think what they're trying to do is do something new and different with these streaming shows that tie into the Marvel Cinematic Universe so we can get more of these characters that we don't see in the movies. And they're really doing things that are new and innovative, which is exactly what they should do, because they're not expected to have, who could ever duplicate? Can you imagine if somebody expects you to make an Infinity War and an Endgame every year? I'd be so stressed out I'd put a bullet in my brain. I mean, so what they're doing now is, I think, exactly what they should be doing. And while you say that, I'm with you. I don't think that Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans will never be seen again in the MCU. But they cannot, out of necessity, rely on the two of them to make their brand work going forward. They just can't, because it's unsustainable.
And you know what? You raised a great point about the level of success they have right now in and of itself is most likely unsustainable anyway, no matter what you do.
Right.
And here's the thing, though, Rob. You mentioned, like, nobody's expecting them to sustain that kind of success. Yes, there are. There are millions and millions and millions of people out there who are just waiting for the next MCU movie to make $700 million and go, oh, it's starting to fail. It's like, what are you talking about? It's a $700 million movie. Yeah, but it's like, I think there are a lot of people out there that think that the MCU is just going to be able to sustain this $1 billion a film thing. And I think we as fans need to start realizing, you know what? This is a rebuilding year. It's like, if a team wins a championship, but then they lose all their star players, and they say, we got to go back to the draft. We got to start developing our young guys, blah, blah, blah. As a fan, we can't expect to win the championship again in the next 3 to 4 years. We're rebuilding. We're going to build back up to that point. And I think we've got a few months here where we as MCU fans and comic book movie fans need to start adjusting our brains a little bit, because I think you're bang on the money with that, Rob. We got to adjust our expectations. It's not going to be the same as Endgame.
And it's funny, John, maybe it's just me, but the fact that Marvel is making a movie called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I am deliriously excited that they're doing that. WandaVision sounds bonkers. I mean, Thor, Love and Thunder. I mean, come on. I mean, if anything, they're making me think that they're going to go in this sort of wacky, fun direction, which, I mean, Infinity War and Endgame, loved them both. I adored them both. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But they're earnest. they're the fate of the universe and we all have to band together. I want to see a little love and thunder in my life. I've always, since I was 11, bring me the love and thunder. And I'm getting it now as a middle-aged man with one foot in his grave. So I think it's great. Bring it on. It's so much fun. What's not to love?
Guys, the question is, what do you think about this? Do you see both sides of the argument? And if so, which way do you kind of lean? Do you lean towards you don't really need to have RDJ and Chris Evans in it argument? Or do you lean more towards hey man, look at the track record and what they've been built on? Yes, we do. I think there's a lot of good arguments to be made on both sides. Which side of the argument do you fall on right now? And what are your expectations of the MCU moving forward right now? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. Chris, what is our fifth and final main topic today?
Final topic is from Angel A. Hey, John and gang. I just saw on Instagram that Kevin Smith posted he was in talks with Jason Mewes and Jeff Anderson to get Clerks 3 back on track, and he's even started writing a new script. What are your thoughts on this? Is it a good idea, or do you think they should have let the franchise end with the second film? Clerks 3, where do we stand?
Okay, so here's the thing. For those of you who don't know, Kevin Smith just put up a social media post with him and what was the name of the guy? Jeff something with him, Jeff Anderson, Jason Mewes, saying, I guess they were at some event together and they say, we talked and we're going to make Clerks 3. And he says, Brian, I always forget Brian's name, O'Hallahan or something. Who I love in these movies. Yeah, he's on board too, and that's it. We're making it. It's a go. And everybody online get all excited. I love Clerks 2. It is my favorite Kevin Smith film. Now, I know for a lot of other people, for a lot of people, it'll be the first Clerks. For some people, it'll be Chasing Amy, and Chasing Amy is, my God, that movie. I can watch that movie every year. I love Chasing Amy. Clerks 2, for me, had a depth to it that very few other Kevin Smith films, which I enjoy most of his films, but there was a certain depth to Clerks 2 that you didn't see, because to me, it spoke to me at a very specific time in my life, because the underlying theme amongst the donkey show jokes and everything going on in that movie, there was also this underlying main theme about where do we put our values in our life? The one character is given an opportunity to move forward in his career and have opportunities, but it means moving away from the people he loves and asking those questions on that level. And they just so happened that I saw that movie as I was facing the same questions. I had the opportunities to move away for a great job and all this kind of stuff, but it meant moving away from my core friends. And it spoke to me, and it actually moved me and made me emotional. And I love the fact that you could have a movie that had that kind of depth wrapped in a wrapper of donkey jokes and ass-to-mouth jokes. It's hilarious to me. I love the idea of a third Clerks film, but don't get too excited. I am here to tell you right now, everybody, don't get too excited about this, because lest we forget, it wasn't that long ago that Kevin Smith already said at one point, we're doing a Clerks 3. I've finished the script. We're doing this, and it never happened. And where are we at right now? Right now, despite the fact that some very well-intentioned sites are running, it's official, Clerks 3 is coming. No, it's not. Right now, you have a filmmaker who wants to make a Clerks 3 and who is just starting to write a script. But the reality is, until we get a studio signed up and until you have somebody green-lighting that film and until the cameras start rolling, I'm not going to get excited about a Clerks 3 because I got my hopes up before it a couple of times, by the way. This isn't just the second time that Kevin Smith has talked Clerks 3. I mean, there was only one other real time that it got real serious and it really looked like it was going to happen, and it didn't. So, look, I am all for Clerks 3. I am 100% for it. I salivate at the idea of watching it. But I am not going to get my hopes up and excited about it just because he and a couple of friends decided we want to do one and I'm going to write a new script. That's great, but only one out of every 100,000 movies that have an idea and start writing a script ever get turned into a movie. So when we get something more concrete, I'll get more excited. Rob, at this point, you've seen what he's been talking about, what he's saying, and you know his history. Am I just being pessimistic about this? Do you think I should maybe be a little bit more optimistic about this, or do you see it the same way I do?
I don't know, man. You know, it kind of bums me out to know that two dudes have been working at the same convenience store for a quarter century.
Well, they moved on to movies. In the second one, they moved on to the burger place.
Yes, I mean, they did, but it's still, like, I would expect more gumption from those two. No, I don't know. I would love to see that happen. The Clerks trilogy to be rounded out. It'd be the creed, maybe, of the, or the creed of the Clerks universe after so much time has passed. But I again, they're in talks. I'm glad to see that former rifts were patched, that Kevin Smith has been doing that. And I'd like to see, because I did like Clerks 2 quite a bit. And I adored, Clerks was definitely an inspiration for when we made Free Enterprise. And I would love to see a third film. But like you said, saying ain't doing. And who knows?
Saying ain't doing.
Saying
I love
ain't
that
doing.
phrase. Question is, guys, what do you think about this? Are you even interested in a Clerks 3? Because I know it's not going to be for everybody. I happen to be excited. And do you think at this point we should believe it's going to happen? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know what you guys think. All right. With all that stuff down and out of the way, guys, we're now going to move on to our live questions. But before we do, we're going to take a little bit of a short break here. We're going to stretch our legs, give our vocal cords a little bit of rest, and refill our drinks. So if you will indulge us for just a couple of minutes, we will get to the live questions in just a few after this short break. We'll see you momentarily. And we are back. Thank you guys for indulging us as we took a little bit of a break there. Now, without wasting any more time, let's dive in to the live questions that you guys have been sending in. And we're going to get things started off here with, who are we starting off with? We're starting off with Jetfire 97, who writes, MCU movie quantities by year. Ooh, in 2008, we had 2. None in 2009. 1 in 2010. 2 in 2011. 1 in 2012. 2 in 2013, 2 in 2014, 2 in 2015, 2 in 2016. Then they went up to 3. In 2017, we had 3. In 18, we had 3. In 19, we had 3. In 2020, we talked about this the other day. We're only getting 2. We're getting we're getting Black Widow and we're getting the Eternals, and that's it. Just getting 2. And then in 2021, they jump up to 4. Poor 2009. Had just that. And yeah, Rob, we were talking about that the other day, about the fact that they are just going to be having 2. We're going to be going from 2 to 4. And that, do you think there was a strategy there for only having 2 in that year as we were getting into the pattern of having 3?
Well, yeah, but it's interesting because there isn't that many years that we did have 3. So
yeah.
It was interesting seeing those numbers. It made me realize that, it hasn't been so saturated as I might have thought. And I think that, the more that we were ramping up to these events of Infinity War and Endgame, and they were sort of bringing us to that fever pitch. And it's interesting, in 2020, going back to 2, it's not like Marvel is overstaying its welcome until you get to 2021, and then we're going to see 4. But that's going to be anomalous as well. I don't think we're going to see 4 MCU movies, because remember, these aren't all guaranteed, John. Like you pointed out, if something makes $700 million, like if an Eternals makes $700 million because it's new and people don't. I mean, the Eternals is not something that, even as a Marvel fan, I love the Eternals, but it's not like they're anywhere near the top tier of Marvel characters. They're literally introducing a brand new pantheon of characters in the Eternals and the Deviants. And if it doesn't do well, like you said, there's going to be people that go, "Oh, it's failing." No, I don't think it's failing at all. Whatever it makes, because it's brand new. And I think they're playing it. I think it's pretty cool what they're doing. I think their strategy is sound. I think we're going to have more streaming shows than we have movies, and I think they're playing it very, very shrewdly, and I think well done. Although
it's still, when you bring into the Disney Plus thing, don't forget, we're going to go from 3 things in a year to 8. When you count the Disney Plus. It's going to be an interesting transition to see how they do there. All right, Matthew Grant writes, is Rob there to see the poster of his new film? I don't think Rob's seen that poster yet, but I will show it to him.
I have a new film?
It's apparently you're going to be directing my movie, the Hall Pass. But I will show that to you. I put it up on my social media. I'll show that to you a little bit later.
I'm down, but I'm a single card producer on that. That's part of my deal.
There you go.
I'll be editing.
I think you are in there listed, as a matter of fact.
Right.
Christopher Sanchez writes, what are your guys' theaters for Joker looking like? I've been to the only one in mine for the last 3 days. Let me try this again. What are your guys' theaters for Joker looking like? I've been the only one in mine for the last 3 days.
In terms of advanced ticket sales, I think that's what he might be saying.
Or I mean, there are other countries where it already started playing on the. Second. I know that when I got tickets for tomorrow's screening, it sold out real fast. I know it sold out real fast. But then again, we live in LA, where a lot more people go to the movies in LA. That's what it is here. So I don't know, but it's looking strong right now. I still think that $90 to $100 million thing is reachable. Casinema Reviews writes, 1 of 2. I'm sorry, John, but I need to say this. Being a Star Wars fan would be a lot easier if The Last Jedi haters would just go away. They've caused nothing but problems for the franchise, and intentional or not, they've made it hard to enjoy it or look forward to The Rise of Skywalker no matter what I do to try to ignore them. Well, I mean, look, you got to keep in mind, there's a couple things, Casinema. Again, you cannot lump everybody who didn't like The Last Jedi into one group. You just can't. I think the majority, the majority of the people who didn't like The Last Jedi are the same as most people who don't like a movie. They see a movie, we say we hate it, that they didn't like, we say we hated it, maybe we say we hated it for a couple of days, and then we move on and we talk about the other new movies coming out. Yes, there is a small segment of whiners that will go on for months and years about and making 18 podcasts every month and 17 blog posts and 12 videos and whatever every month about why this thing sucks, on and on and on. Yes, but you got to understand, they're the minority. And there will always be people like that with certain things. So you got to be able to move past it because I'll tell you what, honestly, Cinema, I tell you this, movie loving brother, all right? If you allow what other people think about a movie you like to affect your enjoyment of the movie, then as a brother, I'm telling you this, then that's on you. That's on you. All right? I never let what anybody, and nobody should ever let what I think about a movie, we always use the prequels as an example because it's a good baseline here. I don't like the prequels, but I always say that should never stop anybody else from not liking the prequels if they like the prequels. I don't let my love of Armageddon, I don't let my enjoyment of Armageddon in any way, shape, or form be affected by the fact that there's a lot of people who don't like Armageddon. So, yes, it is unfortunate that segment of people exist. That's unfortunate. But you can't let that in any way affect how you enjoy something or not. And I would suggest, as a brother, that if it is affecting it, I might suggest that the issue is you. You got to look at it and say, other people are responsible for how I'm feeling about this. No, it's on us. It's on us as individuals. I don't know, Rob, how would you respond to that?
I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, if people knew what I got up to behind closed doors, movie watching. How many times I watch Tough Turf or Star Crash, people would be like, I'm never listening to Burnett talk about it at movies ever again. Look, don't let anyone else be a destroyer of your joy. That's not fair. You're giving them too much power. You have to hold on to your joy. And if you love something, just love it wholeheartedly. Don't let anyone destroy your joy.
All right, well said. All right, let's move on here. Andres Martinez writes, thoughts on Rush Hour. Odd franchise to me. I don't like the first one. I love the second one, and I hated the third one. Yeah. So it's kind of the way. Any other?
I'm kind of with you on that too. It's a franchise. Whenever I catch glimpses of it, I want it all to be better.
Yeah, and I really like number 2. That was the first one when I got my first pick. Somebody who was one of my short-term Hollywood crushes, Zhang Ziyi. She's that girl's an angel. Anyway, let's see here. Enrique Mija writes, hello, John and crew. Not sure about you guys, but I'm pretty excited for season 3 premiere of the animated Nick Kroll show, Big Mouth. Tell you what, that is a show I got super excited about when I saw the first trailers for it, and I've never watched it. Never watched it. Did you ever get around to watching Big Mouth?
I've never seen it.
Yeah,
I like Nick Kroll.
So do I. And I've heard good things about it, but never got around. I've seen an episode or two, but I just actually never got around to watching the whole series like I really thought I would when I first saw the trailers. Richard Demicoli writes, enjoyed Salt, Angelina Jolie, shame the sequel wasn't made. I don't believe it did very well.
Yeah.
It was a nice little kind of spy-like agent action thriller.
I liked it.
I was never shocked though that they didn't make another one. To be honest with you, Richard Demicoli also writes, rewatched Endgame at home again and again, and it still has me emotionally. I know it's not a perfect movie, but damn, it's so good. See, that's the thing. A movie. Look, I could sit here all day. Actually, I could sit here for the next hour and talk about problems I have with Endgame. That this was kind of ridiculous, and this was a little silly, and this part made no sense, and blah blah blah. But I think the underlying lesson here is that you can have those things in movies, but if the core things really work, you can still totally love that movie, even if there are things about the movie that stand out to you as being a little bit of problematic. Look, I've talked before about some things I don't like about Endgame, but I really love Endgame. I can watch that movie a lot, and that's the core. A movie doesn't have to be perfect to really strike a chord with us as individuals. I don't know, Rob, how do you respond to that?
I love Endgame. I find it to be wildly entertaining. I love all the characters in it. The everything that happens. I mean, it is a science fiction, fantasy, comic book epic, just like Infinity War. It's a different movie than Infinity War, but I mean, watching those two movies together is it's such a satisfying, fun experience that I have nothing bad to say about them. I mean, it's so weird that we expect movies to be absolutely perfect. I mean, think about what what Endgame does. You have to deal with the decimation, the post-snap world. You travel through time. Robert Downey Jr. meets his dead father. Captain America becomes old and lives the life he didn't get to live. I mean, there is so much wackiness. Sacrificing your life to get the Soul Stone. I mean, there's 10 movies in Endgame. I love it, and I don't care what anybody says. To me, it's one great, entertaining fantasy epic.
And you can feel that way.
Yeah.
Even if it's not perfect. Like, look, Suicide
It
Squad's
isn't
a good
perfect.
example. Suicide Squad's a good example to me. That movie is a hot mess of a movie. Suicide Squad is a hot mess of a movie. But you know what? For me as a viewer, it struck some chords with me. And I walked out of Suicide Squad. Ann and I both walked out of Suicide Squad and going, you know what? We had a good time. It's a hot mess. It does a lot of crazy, dumb things. But I still enjoyed it. And that's a good example that we can have those movies and we don't have to apologize for it. All right. Let's see. James Wheeler writes, morning, John and crew. Have any of you seen The Rapture with Mimi Rogers? I have not, but I love me Mimi Rogers. She's great.
Oh, I love The Rapture. I think it's Michael Tolkien who directed that. And talk about a gut punch of an ending. But it is exactly like it says. It's about the rapture. The rapture is described in the Bible.
I have not seen it.
It's worth seeing.
I have not even heard of it.
David Duchovny's in it.
Oh, I like David Duchovny, and I like Mimi Rogers, so there you go. Okay, Richard Demacoli also writes, really looking forward to Joker on Friday. The fact that it deals with so many real-life issues makes it more enticing to watch. Well, I think most movies will have a lot of real-life issues in them, and I think, you know, they'll highlight some as well. I mean, look, there are 1,000 reasons, both on-screen and off-screen. Like off-screen, I've always talked about, I want this to be a precedent that you can make standalone comic-based movies that aren't connected to cinematic universes and have great one-shot movies. On top of that, you've got some terrific talent attached. On top of that, it just looks like a great movie. So, Rob, I know you're excited about it. We're seeing this thing tomorrow.
I can't wait, dude. I mean, to me, once again, it's an evolution of the comic book film. And I love the fact that there's been such time and care and craft put into it, and the fact that it's become part of the cultural zeitgeist. And you don't hear people going, oh, there's a backlash against comic book movies. Nope, now there's a backlash against something that's in comic book movies, that comic books have now transcended the genre so much that they're becoming part of the social conversation. The people are talking about it on news stories. People that wouldn't pay attention to comic book movies are now like, my God, it's become an incel anthem, and what does it mean, and is it dangerous, and we have to have guards, and the military is releasing warnings, and I mean, wow, comic books have come a long way.
All right, next up, this is a placeholder name. I like that, writes, over under 25%, Firefly is revived on Disney Plus or Hulu, more like 1% at most. Look, nobody likes hearing this, but it's true. Nobody watched Firefly. Very few people watched Serenity, which is I think one of the great sci-fi films of the last 15, 20 years. I think on its own, apart from the show, I thought Serenity was magnificent and wonderful. It introduced me to Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah. He was great.
Oh, he was
Serenity.
That movie was a revelation of him to me. But no, the fact of the matter is, no matter how much everybody says that it's grown and they won't do it. I just don't see there being I would love it, but I don't see. Rob, over under 25%?
I think under.
Yeah, I'm going to go way under on that. All right, Cinema Reviews writes, to be clear, I'm not saying everyone needs to agree on everything, but the way people reacted and continue to act about The Last Jedi is ridiculous. No, look, I to an extent, I agree. Yes, The Last Jedi is now a movie that is years old. We're getting on years in plural. I get it. You watch a movie, you hate a movie. You maybe make write an article about it. You write your review of it. You maybe write one more follow-up, talk about why that movie really disappointed you. And then if in conversations it comes up, you reiterate your position, sure. But I don't see the point, unless you have a real axe to grind and a real agenda, that you write 17 blog posts every 5 weeks about why that movie sucks 18 months, years after the thing is done. It is ridiculous. It is stupid. That being said, everybody expresses their fandom in their own way. And again, it shouldn't affect you and how you look. Look, if you don't want to hear that stuff, then don't listen to that stuff. You can't let it affect how you enjoy it or unenjoy something. If you hate something and somebody else keeps raving its praises, that shouldn't affect your opinion. I mean, so let other people express theirs in their way. I may think it's ridiculous and whatever, but let other people express their own stuff in their way. and it shouldn't affect how you feel. So I'll just leave it at that. All right. Timothy Platt writes, happy opening day, John. Let's go, Caps. It is, of course, a holy day in the calendar, the NHL. The puck drops, and I'm telling you, I think it is the Leafs' year. I purposely have never talked a lot about hockey on my shows because most Americans don't follow hockey, so I don't talk about it much. You might hear me talk about it a little bit more this year because I think this is the Leafs' year. All right, Mr. 47 writes, why the hell did No Country for Old Men end like that? I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good ending,
Me too.
as a matter of fact. When he goes back to the house, I mean, it was the logical, it was the extension. It's like not everything's okay and fine. It's
right.
I actually thought it was a pretty good ending myself. Ike Moore writes, Tony coming back would be the only MCU fake death I'd be okay with. RDJ can say he wants to move on, but let's be honest, him and the MCU are one. And like to reiterate a point you made, Rob, Black Widow movie wouldn't be that because in that time frame he is still alive.
Right.
Like if they do bring him back there. But listen, they brought Black Panther back. They brought Spider-Man back. They brought Wanda back. They brought everybody back from the snap. They brought, this what they do. It's the MC fake death universe. They do it. And they'll do it with Robert Downey Jr. He'll be back. He can say all the things he wants to say right now. Chris Evans can say all the things about, I'm at peace with moving on. Well, no, they'll be back. I just wonder, where are you sitting with that right now?
Well, again, I think I said my piece on that earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is bigger than one man or one character. I do.
Right. But you still think they'll be back?
I don't know. Probably.
No, wait, yeah, a little bit earlier you said, you're right, John, they're not coming back.
They're probably going to somehow.
Now, whether they need to come back and whether they are coming back are two separate questions.
Right.
And
they can also come back now that they've opened up the quantum realm and time travel and all that. It doesn't have to be our Tony Stark or our Chris Evans.
It's still the same thing.
I know.
But they will. They will. It may not be this year. It may not be in 3 years. But they will. They'll be back. And maybe not on a regular basis.
I think we're going to know, John, by how they handle Loki. Because the Loki that's coming back is not our Loki. It's the Loki of the 2012 other universe.
Which in a way is our Loki. But I don't know.
Sort of.
Yeah, hey, look. To me, the bottom line is this. Gamora was gone. Now Gamora's back. Loki was gone. Now Loki's back. I mean, it's just, to me, it's semantics. Tomato. Timothy Platt writes, I think I've seen the Red Band trailer for Jexy about 100 times already. Super excited for this movie. Rose Byrne, I love her, by the way, says, who dis bitch has me rolling every time I hear it. Listen, Rob, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Jexy yet.
I have, and I can't wait. It's the comedic her.
Yeah, it's the comedic her. That's the perfect way to put it. I remember the first time I saw the trailer, it was in a theater. It came on, and I didn't find it all that funny. But everyone else in the theater, including my wife, was holding their guts laughing hard. And like Anne is like, I got it. No matter what I'm doing, I'm taking work off. We're going to go see this. Like everybody else loved it. So you're excited about this one?
I am. It looks really funny.
I like the way you put that. It's the comedic her. That's exactly what it is. So it'll be interesting to see how people respond to it next week. It's going to be interesting to see how people respond to it. All right. Mr. 47 writes, after rewatching Toy Story 1 through 4, I realized Woody is Cap and Buzz is Iron Man. Just like their relationship in the MCU, we need that essential bond. I mean, they are, look, whether they're coming back imminently or not, we're at least going to have a period of time here in the MCU without Cap and Iron Man. At the very least, we're going to have a period of time without them. But I think Misto brings up a valid point here, Rob. I think without them, there is a bit of a void, not just of these two larger-than-life characters, but the essential relationship between those characters that formed a core center of what a lot of the MCU was built around, and a lot of their core stories going into Civil War and what happens after that. Do you think they need to find a way with other existing characters to kind of fill that void, or can they just move on from that and not worry about it?
No, I think that our viewer is correct. I think those emotional bonds are what made the MCU, whether it was Hawkeye and Black Widow or whether it was Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. And the relationships, Thor has, Thor and Rocket. You know, I think that seeing these superheroic characters with very human bonds with one another humanizes the whole universe. And I think it's a core tenet, and I think we're going to see more of that. It'll be interesting to see, are Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange going to bond like that?
Or she could be a villain by that point.
I know.
I'm so excited to find that out. All right, Quinn Fowley writes, one of two. In response to a snippet from last night's companion video, you may not be obsessed with Weird Al, but I am. And thus, I shall share some tidbits. Weird Al's hometown is Linwood, California, 25 miles south of Los Angeles. And according to his 1985 mockumentary, The Complete Al, and his birthday is October 23rd, 1959. Fun fact, Weird Al's 60th birthday is 3 weeks from today. So what happened was, last night somebody was talking about me, and they mentioned being a Weird Al fanatic, and I'd say I'm obsessed with Weird Al. I'm not obsessed with Weird Al. I do have several Weird Al pops. I love all of his music. He's the one celebrity I've always been, and I've bumped into him or been in the same room with him 6 times, and I have never. It's the only celebrity in my life I've been too scared to go up and talk to. I've gone up and talked to Harrison Ford. I've gone up and talked to Margot Robbie. Name it. But I've always been too scared to. But I'm not obsessed with it. And I said in the show, for instance, I don't know what his hometown is, and I don't know what his birthday is. But apparently Quinn Fowley knows that stuff, and good on ya. I can't believe that dude's 60. Because I'll tell you what, I went to go see a concert of his, Rob, just 2 years ago at the Greek Theater in LA. I can't believe he was 57 at the time, because he put on an amazing show. I still think of him as being in his early 40s. I really do. It's crazy, but he's been along rocking it that long.
40, dude. What can I say? I like really Weird Al. I mean, the fact that he made a mockumentary in '85 says it all. I mean, look at how he's been doing parodies now for 35 years. That's great.
And by the way, we often say Fast Five is the Casablanca, or no, the Citizen Kane of the Fast and Furious franchise. I say this: Citizen Kane is the UHF of that era of filmmaking. So if you haven't seen UHF.
Wow.
Watch yourself some UHF. All right. Mr. 47 writes, have you seen Harry Brown with Michael Caine? It's basically a better version of the exact plot where they're going in for Last Blood. So that's a movie where Michael Caine, he's an old military vet, I believe, and somebody murders his best friend and he's out for revenge, something like that. I never got around to seeing it.
I haven't seen it either.
I don't think it got a theatrical release as far as I remember. It came out about 10 years ago, I think 2008, 2009. So I don't remember it remember exactly, but I never actually did see it. So yeah, there's that. Nemesis 47 then writes, by the way, I think Rambo 08 was a better ending for the franchise than Last Blood is. It felt like a Taken ripoff with slightly better end fight. I'm not going to disagree. I do think that Rambo, you bring guns? No, then you ain't changing nothing. That was the better send-off for Rambo. It was. I still found value in this Rambo Last Blood movie, though. It's not a great movie, but I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I enjoyed the third act of that movie on a visceral level very, very much. Have you had a chance to see Last Blood yet?
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to, because I love the Rambo franchise. I just been so busy.
Yeah, but hey, look, I agree. The 08 one's a better send-off. But that doesn't mean I don't think they shouldn't have made this one, because I got some enjoyment out of it, even if it's not blowing it up at the box office. This is a placeholder name writes, could Avatar 2 save Fox as a studio from Disney? I don't know. I mean, Disney will look at it and say, well, it's ours anyway, whether we keep the brand Fox around or we don't. I don't think it's going to affect things one way or the other, to be honest with you. I don't think they're going to ditch the whole Fox brand, though, Rob. Do you?
I hope not. I mean, and if they are, maybe someone will come in and buy it, like United Artists. And what if Apple bought 20th Century Fox and they just made movies using the 20th Century Fox logo? That's what I'd like to see. I love the logo. I love the history. I love the Alfred Newman fanfare. I love Fox. Bring it back. Don't let it die.
Yeah. All right, Sean Stewart writes, hey, John, just became a Patreon supporter. Thank you. Keep up with the filthy. Thank you so much, Sean. And by the way, thank you for reminding me, Sean. For those of you who are Patreon supporters and members of the Discord server, don't forget that after this show is done, about 15 minutes after we go off air, I'm going to be jumping over onto the Discord server and join me in the John Campea Show post-show chat channel. And we'll talk about all the things we talked about here on the show here today, getting your guys' thoughts and asking me questions or whatever. So we have that. Again, that's about 15 minutes after the show. for all of you who are Patreon supporters. So hopefully you join us for that, Sean. BMC writes, over under 50%, Tom is still Spidey after 2 new MCU films. I believe over. He has never been anything but overwhelmingly enthusiastic about being Spider-Man, whether it was with just Sony or with Sony and Marvel. So I'm going to take the over 50. It's not a guarantee, but I'm going to take over 50% on that, Rob. What do you think?
I'm going to say 100% that it's over 50%.
100%. What is the line from 40-Year-Old Virgin? Or no, from Anchorman? 50% of the, no, 40% of the time, it works every time or something like that. 100% that it's over 50%. I love that. This is a placeholder name writes, fun fact, Weird Al in 2009 partnered with the Orange County Fair to produce a 10-minute short film about how the brain works in 3D. The film is now lost to time. I never knew that. Add to the growing accolades of the great Weird Al Yankovic that he is also a documentary filmmaker. I love that.
What hasn't he done?
What hasn't he done? Jonathan Teft writes, one of two. James Gunn, Taika Waititi, Jon Favreau, and the Russo brothers have become big names in Hollywood largely because of their work with Disney. I'm curious why Peyton Reed hasn't become bigger. I think he's done a great job with the Ant-Man movies and deserves to be seen on the same level as the others. Who do you think is the most underrated director in the MCU? Well, immediately I would say Peyton Reed. Peyton Reed is the most underrated of those. Now, Jon Favreau was an established known name before he did stuff with Disney. Taika Waititi, his name was blowing up ever since he did. I mean, first he did with the Wilder People, and then he did, not in that particular order, that he did What We Do in the Shadows. His was a name that was becoming known. James Gunn had already done Slither and a lot of other things, but it became a household name there. The Russo brothers, yeah, that's where they became household names, was with Disney that. I think Peyton Reed has done a wonderful job with a weird, obscure, odd, tough to make a movie around sort of character, especially, Rob, when you consider the circumstances under which he took it over, because the very popular Edgar Wright was signed onto there, and then he split from there, although he's still on as a producer of Ant-Man and stuff like that. He came in under very difficult circumstances and made a couple of really quality movies. And unlike the Russo brothers, who I adore, but the Russo brothers came in and they were able to build on work that other people had done first. Mm-hmm. Joss Whedon came in and established what the Avengers are and who other directors made these characters and established these characters and blah, blah, blah. And the Russo brothers, who did a magnificent job, but they had the benefit of coming in and building on that foundation other people work. Peyton Reed came in with a character that Ant-Man with Paul Rudd that nobody had really seen or heard before. Brought him in, and you're right, I think he's underrated. But his movies weren't $1.3 billion movies, and they were still the smaller character. But I really hope he does get his due, because I do think he's the most underrated director in the MCU. Rob, who would you say is the most underrated guy
I
there?
think you're right. I think Peyton Reed, didn't he direct Bring It On?
Did he?
Back in the day.
I can't remember.
Peyton Reed has had a pretty good career, and I think the only problem is that Ant-Man is probably the least cool character in the MCU. I mean, as far as fanboys and girls go, I think that, people don't sit there and go, Ant-Man's my favorite character. Everyone likes Ant-Man, but he's like your favorite buddy who isn't like your best friend. You love hanging out with him whenever you see him. Like, I like that guy a lot, but he's not top tier friends for you. And I think that's Peyton Reed's the only drawback, because those movies are really well directed. They're wonderfully entertaining. They're so funny, and they're so much fun to watch. I mean, Michael Peña's performance and the whole pantheon of other characters and the secondary characters, and I mean Janet Van Dyne, and also bring back Michelle Pfeiffer. And the cast is so good, but I think it's seen in a way, it's more of the, it's the kind of movie you like when you're in college, as opposed to the movies you think are kick-ass in high school.
But I love Ant-Man.
And I do too. I love both. As a matter of fact, brah moment, Steelbook of Ant-Man came out yesterday. What's up?
There you go.
4K.
And hey, listen, I'll tell you what else. I think Peyton Reed's name is going to become more of a household name when he does Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's not official that he's doing Fantastic Four, but I think they're going to go to him for Fantastic Four.
I think 100%. He's the director to do Fantastic Four.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And I think once he does, I think his name will become a little bit more well-known here. All right, Jonathan Teft writes, one of two. I love going to Fathom event showings of classic movies, but it's weird how on multiple occasions I've had to run out and find an employee because the movie would be starting and the lights in the theater would still be on. This has grown to be very frustrating. I'll tell you what, Jonathan, I have not had that experience myself at a Fathom Events thing, but I'll have a theory as to why that might be. you see, most of the time now, there's not actually a person in there saying, oh, movie starting now, turn off the lights. It's all automated. In a lot of the theaters, and anyway, not all of them, but in a lot of theaters, it's all an automated process. And when you get something that's outside of their regular routine, like a Fathom Events, I'm not surprised to find out you might get little timing issues and things like that. Have you ever had an experience like that, Rob?
Yeah, and I think it's because, remember, when you go to a Fathom event, it's being broadcast off-site. It's not like Fathom brought a DCP and they're playing a DCP. They're streaming
I didn't even realize that. That's right.
They're streaming it from somewhere else. So it's not like a theater has a DCP brought in and loaded up on their system and they're playing it. It's coming in from the outside. And that's probably another reason. Like you pointed out, there's a lot of automation going on, and with Fathom events, even more so.
Right, but still, they should try to make sure that doesn't happen if you're a paying customer in there seeing a movie. All right, Jonathan Teft writes in again, and he writes, one of two. Thoughts on the Western Silverado? It's been my favorite Western since I was a kid. Recently, I went online to see what others thought of it. I was kind of surprised that a common criticism was it just follows a bunch of Western cliches. To be honest, a lot of the best Westerns of all time have a lot of Western cliches in it, so just be fair there. That might be true, but I think it perfected those cliches with great characters and a fun story. All right, thanks for sending that in, Jonathan. And this is the one with Kevin Costner, Scott Glenn, Kevin Kline. I'll be honest.
Brian Dennehy, Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, yeah, Brian Dennehy. Speaking of Rambo, from the original, he was the sheriff in the first Rambo movie, First Blood.
Linda Hunt is even in it.
What? Oh, I don't even remember that.
Shout out Mapes. I love Silverado, John. I think it's Lawrence Kasdan writing and directing, coming off of Body Heat.
That's right.
And Big
Lawrence
Chill.
Kasdan, and the writer of Empire Strikes Back.
Writer of Empire Strikes Back and Jedi, of course, Solo and The Force Awakens. I think Silverado is a wonderful movie. It's a great widescreen epic. It really brought back, part of the reason it has a lot of Western cliches in it is because it was bringing the Western back. It's this great big widescreen star-studded classic Western, and it's awesome. I love Silverado. It has an incredible score. I have the limited edition out of print Blu-ray of it. I love this movie.
All right, next up, let's see. Lewis Dotson writes, watched Harry Potter growing up and still do a full rewatch of the series once a year as I've gotten older, almost 30. I've come to realize just how wild that story is. Are there any movies that, for you, have changed the way you see them as you've grown older? I think, Luis, I think all movies change as we get older. Because as we get older, we have different life experiences. Our perceptions change as we add new experiences, seeing something in a movie that now we have a new experience in the back of our minds to kind of, as a new lens to look at a story through and what meaning was there that maybe we didn't catch before. I think that happens with a lot of them, to be honest. I mean, Star Wars to me, when I go back and watch Empire, even today, it's like I find new things in it and my perception changes a little bit every single time. I don't know, Rob, what about you?
No, I think you just said something that's absolutely very astute and very true, is that the way our favorite movies hit us, the reason they stay our favorite movies is because the movies, our understanding of not only the movies but of ourselves evolves over time. So we can watch something that a character went through. The Godfather, for instance. As I get older, I realize that once Steve Martin said in the movie Grand Canyon that all the great truths are in The Godfather, they are. Never tell anyone outside the family what you're thinking. I mean, there are truisms in that I have been made to see are truer still as I get older, because I encounter truths I hadn't yet encountered as I get older, and The Godfather certainly underscores that for me. So I think you're right. I think all movies change with people as you get older because they mean different things.
All right, great observation, Luis. All right, next one up. Carlos Santana writes, greetings. Have any of you seen My Hero Academia? I know my wife loves it, keeps trying to get me to watch it, but I haven't seen it.
I have too, and I haven't watched all of it, but I like the show a great deal, especially like as an X-Men fan. I do like it.
My wife loves it. My wife loves it. All right, Jonathan Teft writes, what makes Ad Astra even more disappointing is that James Gray's last movie, The Lost City of Z, was incredible. He's done a couple of really, really good films, as a matter of fact, none of which have really been breakout hits by any stretch of the imagination. And unfortunately, Ad Astra looks like it's going to be one that loses the studio a hell of a lot of money on that. And I wasn't thrilled with it. You know, I like a lot of his previous work, but Ad Astra was just... it just put me to sleep. It really did, Rob.
Plus, it didn't. I don't think it knew what it was. And plus, this Dan Bradley, second unit director Dan Bradley, who I really like, coming in and directing action scenes for it. And I hate to say it, but the science, you can't make a space movie. You can't look for verisimilitude and then violate so much of the science. By the way, he did make a really good movie that Joaquin Phoenix was in called Two Lovers. It's a small film.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I really like it. I own it on Blu-ray. It's something that surprised me. It's people are going to watch it. It's a very quiet, simple film, but good performances, and I quite enjoyed it.
All right, next up, Evelyn writes, do you think we could see Chris Evans make a little cameo as Old Cap on Falcon and Winter Soldier? Well, whenever you use the words ever or could, the answer is almost always by default yes. Could it happen? Absolutely it could. I'm not expecting it, though. I'm not expecting it, but I will not fall out of my seat in shock and surprise if it did. So I'm not expecting it. I don't think they will. But I'm not going to be totally stunned if they do. Rob, what do you think?
No, I think it could very well happen. I mean, Old Cap he's here. He's in the MCU. I wouldn't be surprised if him and Robert Redford are hanging out somewhere, sorting out their differences.
James Welsh writes, part 1. I saw Joker, probably meant saw. I saw Joker and loved it, but one thing I did not like is that they used a song by Gary Glitter in one scene. He is a pedophile who did horrible things and is currently serving a lengthy sentence. Part 2, why they put that song in when it's giving that man royalties. Well, first of all, James, I don't know. I know nothing about, I've never even heard of Gary Glitter, to be honest with you, off the top of my head. So I don't care. I really don't. Also, if it was a song that was applicable to the scene, I haven't seen the movie, so
right.
I don't know. On top of all that, look, if you went down the roster of everybody who's involved in one way or another with a movie, you are going to come across people on that list that you would not want to see a movie that they're involved with, and you'll never see any movies. Now, again, I'm speaking that as somebody who I have no idea what the Gary Glitter situation is, so I frankly, I don't care because I don't know anything about it. I don't know what the details are. I don't know that he did get money from it. I don't know any of that, so I can't really comment on that. Rob,
also, maybe that's the point. Like, they knew exactly what they were doing by putting that Gary Glitter song in the movie, so maybe they're trying to underscore something.
Maybe.
That I don't know.
It'll go over my head because I have no idea about what it is, but maybe to somebody who are more astute, like you, James, maybe somebody's a little bit more astute, maybe that'll just make a scene uncomfortable for you. Maybe that's exactly what they were trying to do. I mean, I don't know. The bottom line is, since I don't know the situation, I don't have an answer for it, unfortunately. Initial D's writes, I can't believe Peeps complained about a song. Well, hey, listen, there are legitimate issues to bring up no matter how big and how small sometimes, so we got to respect that, Initial. All right, next up, Ryan Lohner writes, my uncle was an extra in The Sopranos. We like to say that he has a very distinctive back. First of all, I've been an extra in a number of movies. When I was still living in Canada, one of the studios got a hold of me and said, hey, we're shooting this movie in your neck of the woods. Why don't you go down and be an extra in it? And I was like, oh, okay. And then I kind of got hooked on it, and I got connected in with the agency that did it, and they just started sending me out to all these. I just got to go and be on set, and it was a wild experience for me to see how a lot of things are done on set. I had one bad experience, though. I'll tell you about. It was for the Edward Norton Hulk movie. Had one bad experience. So they gave us all the rules when we showed up on set, right? They gave us all these rules. And okay, got it. And I got my full military uniform and the whole bit. It was great. And I asked one of the production people who's in charge of all the extras. I said, hey, I understand we can't bring our phones. We can't bring anything like that when we walk from our holding area over to the set. I said, question though, am I allowed to take a selfie or some pictures from here at the holding area? And they said, yeah, there's no problem with that. I'm like, okay, great. And I took took a picture of myself in my uniform, blah, blah, blah. And I shared that stuff on my website at the time, themovieblog.com, when I was there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So like the next day I show up and the first assistant director was there. A bunch of the productions assistants were there and said, we need to talk to you. I'm like, all right. And they're like, we can't have you on set anymore. I'm like, okay, but why? You took pictures and put them on your site. I said, yeah, but I asked if that was okay. I got permission to do it. And the production assistant lied. Said, you never asked me that. I'm like, you son of a... And I was real mad. I did not... I'm going to admit right now, I did not handle it in a classy way. But I was like, because he... Like, at first I was just defensive. I'm like, but I asked. I said, I understand we can't take pictures on set, but I asked, could we take pictures here? Are we allowed to do that here? And he said it was totally okay. And I was ready for him to back me up. It's like, you never asked me that. And I swear to God, if there weren't like 3 security guys there, I would have jumped that guy and throttled him. It's like, you fucking son of a bitch, lying like that. I was so pissed and I was so mad. But anyway, that was I don't know why I brought that up. That's my one bad thing about working behind the scenes.
You did put him on social media though.
Yeah, but they said they didn't say there was any restrictions. And when I said, you could have at least said, like, I would have understood if I said, I asked permission if I could take pictures here. And you know who I am.
Right.
And I asked...
Well, but they didn't.
No, but the ADs did. They made sure they made them aware about who I was because I was, also in the media, right?
Right. Okay.
And if he had said to me, sir, you did ask me if you could take pictures, but if they had said, but we feel that taking pictures and putting it up on your website, that's a different thing. Then we could have had that debate. But it was, you never asked me if you could take pictures.
Right.
And I'm like, I was so mad. I was so mad. Anyway, I don't know why I went off on that rant. Oh, yeah, extras, and your uncle has the back and the thing. There you go. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, my top 5 directors. Number 1, Akira Kurosawa. Number 2, Alfred Hitchcock. Number 3, Stanley Kubrick. Number 5, Andrei Tarkovsky. Number 5, John Carpenter. A lot of the classics in there. A lot of the classics.
It's a great list.
None of the moderns, but a lot of the classics. I dig it, Timbula.
I stand behind that list.
It's a strong, strong list. All right. Emad writes, 1 of 2. Did you see Joaquin's interview with Jimmy Kimmel? I found it very disrespectful that Jimmy would share a clip like that just to get some laughs, unless that interaction was already planned by them. If that's the case, then that interview alone was the best acting I've seen from Joaquin. So, okay, look, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but a lot of you know it's making rounds on the headlines right now that while on Jimmy Kimmel, they said the director of Joker, Todd Phillips, sent Jimmy this clip of behind the scenes of Joaquin getting angry at one of the crew members and like swearing at the crew member and some personal stuff and blah, blah, blah. And the way it came across was that Todd Phillips and Jimmy Kimmel basically sandbagged Joaquin Phoenix and ambushed him and played a very embarrassing piece of footage of behind the scenes that should be a safe place. And Joaquin Phoenix today, stories come out saying he's embarrassed by the clip and blah, blah, blah. I don't know that I buy it.
No.
I don't know that I buy it. I think this is the exact sort of thing that you would use to get people talking about the Joker movie. I think this was orchestrated. I don't buy for a second that it was actually legit. Because, number one, Jimmy Kimmel, as a late show host, he will ruin himself if it starts to get out to other talent. If you appear on Jimmy Kimmel's show, you might get ambushed and blah, blah, blah. That's going to kill his show. That'll kill his show. Plus Todd Phillips. What actor will ever want to work with Todd Phillips again if Todd Phillips is sending these clips? There's no way. There's no way this isn't orchestrated. I believe it's orchestrated. What do you think, Rob?
Well, John, Jimmy Kimmel and Matt Damon have a long-going feud.
Yes, they do.
So who knows? No, this was orchestrated. Of course he knew. The studio doesn't want to piss off their lead actor in what's the most written about movie of the year. They knew. And it's not like Joaquin Phoenix. Remember when he starred in Casey Affleck's movie?
Yep.
That weird documentary? I would assume, I bet Joaquin Phoenix loved this. Loved it.
Yeah, as much as they deny it, I think this was a one last publicity stunt before the opening of the film. So I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. All right. Just got time for a couple more with Rob still here. Pierre Fillion writes, Harley hijacked the Birds of Prey movie, and she is making it about her, so it's coherent with the character. I love it, and the song in the trailer is perfect. I thought the trailer was... straight up, I thought it was a bad trailer. I didn't. It did nothing for me to get me excited about the movie. Rob, what I said yesterday was there are two things I dug about the trailer. The one was the line was, "I'm the one you should be afraid of." I dug that line. That was a great line. And the last little scene was very Harley Quinn-esque, sitting in the car with a lit stick of dynamite, going, "Can you hold this for me?" I'm like, okay, that felt really good. But in the span of an entire trailer, those are the only two moments. Did not work for me. How did you saw it? I haven't had a chance to ask you about it.
We haven't talked about it. I was perplexed by the trailer, frankly. I thought it looked like a TV show. I mean, I didn't mind the lighting, but it just seemed to me. It could be enjoyable, but I don't know if I want to or if I care about it. When the trailer was over, I wanted to like it more than I did. I was excited to see the movie. I love Margot Robbie. I want all the success in the world for her, but I watched this and I'm like, okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi's in it. That's what I took away from the trailer. Great.
Oh, well. We'll see. All right. Last question we'll ask with Rob here. Let's see. Patrick Conway writes, so set photos of William Hurt on Black Widow set confirms Marvel must be doing Thunderbolts movie. I don't see how that is in any way, shape, or form is true. Not that him hunting Nat post-Civil War isn't more likely. Yeah, well, first of all, William Hurt is one of the treasures in Hollywood. He's like just simply one of the best. And I love him as Thunderbolt Ross. I also love Sam Elliott as Thunderbolt Ross, don't get me wrong, but I've really liked him as Thunderbolt Ross. He fits in with there very well. But I don't think this is any indication that they're doing a Thunderbolts movie. Rob, do you?
No. And when are they going to do that? In 2018 or 2028?
Yeah,
when they make a Thunderbolts movie. But, you never know. But I love William Hurt all the way back to Body Heat and Altered States, one of my favorite science fiction films.
And what's the specific Newsroom?
Newsroom, yeah.
I loved him in Newsroom.
Broadcast News.
Broadcast News. Wasn't it also he was in the one not something gods with the deaf actress
Children of the
Lesser God.
Great movie.
Awesome film.
Great movie.
And wasn't he in Kiss of the Spider Woman as well?
Yes.
And then he was nominated for an Academy Award. I don't think he won, but for History of Violence. The dude is just awesome.
He's one of my favorite actors, and I if you haven't seen Altered States, it's so good.
All right, guys. Well, listen, that'll wrap up all the time that Rob has for us today, because he's got other things he's got to do. Rob, it's always a joy and a privilege to have you here. Of course, the next time we see you in here, we'll just be hours away from going to see the Joker. But for now, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
Rob, as always, it's the highlight of my day when I get to bask in the glory of Robert Meyer Burnett. Thank you for being here, sir.
It's my pleasure, John.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, guys, we still got some time here, so let's keep on going with the live questions. And we're going to go on here with Min Tran, who writes, you think I'll stir up so much trouble and not make sure you knew it was me? If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the Red Hood. I think that's the Batman animated Red Hood, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's the only thing I can think of from there. That's a good one, by the way. I don't generally like MCU animated, not MCU. I generally don't like Marvel animated stuff or DC animated stuff, generally. But there are some exceptions. That's kind of one of them for me. Zachary Buckler writes, got my tickets for Joker tomorrow night, and I'm stupid excited about it. Sorry if this has already been asked, but over under 25% Joker kills the Waynes. I don't think it will happen, but I'll take over 20. I wouldn't take over 50, so I'm not saying it will happen. But John, he can't kill the Waynes. No, I know, but remember, Adolf Hitler didn't really die the way they showed him dying in Inglourious Bastards. Right? Just saying. This movie could take, and I haven't seen it, this movie could take liberties. I'm not saying it will, I'm not saying it won't, but I'll take over 20%, even though I would still take under 50. Min Tran writes, why? I'm not talking about killing Penguin or Scarecrow. Oh yeah, this is again Red Hood. Or Dent, I'm talking about him. Just him. This is Jason Todd talking Red Hood. I'm doing it because he took me away from you. It's a great moment. And again, it is one to me, one of the exceptions. There's not a lot of them, but this is definitely one one of the exceptions to that general thing of mine that I don't like the animated stuff from DC or Marvel, but that's definitely one of the exceptions. All right, Daniel Hinojosa writes, Force Awakens too derivative of A New Hope equals bad. Some people can't seem to let that go. Well, I mean, look, we all like or dislike movies for our own individual reasons, right? The only thing I would ever criticize somebody else's reasoning for not liking a film is if it's based on racist, homophobic nonsense like that. Then you're just, a cousin humping, bottom feeding dweller, whatever. You're just stupid. But outside of that very specific realm of things, then everybody's got their own reasons. And to each one of us, look, film is subjective, and so films hit us all in different ways. That means different elements of films will be more prominent or have heavier effect than others. And just because, is there a bit of a derivative nature from the original New Hope to The Force Awakens? Yeah, absolutely there is. But to me, that didn't hurt the film. To me, it's still a wonderful, fantastic film, and it did not hurt the film to me. But that doesn't mean to somebody else that doesn't hurt the film for them, right? So we all have our individual reasons for liking and disliking a movie, and different elements of a movie will have different weight with each one of us as individuals depending on how it hits us. So yeah, I mean, that's not a thing to me, but that's not to say it's not going to be a thing to somebody else. So, it is what it is, man. All right, Luke Blackwell writes, you always laugh about the Marvel fake death universe, I do, but you seem to be okay and defend it when Star Wars does it. Star Wars doesn't do it in general. Palpatine coming back is stupid. No, Palpatine coming back is great. And listen, I've always been very, very clear about this. Okay? And people sometimes ask me, why do I often, part of my communication technique is I'll repeat certain points several times. And a lot of people ask me, why do you do that? Here's why. Because this is something I've repeated 1,000 times, and yet some people still don't listen. I have no problem with a franchise or a story using a fake death. DC did a fake death with Superman, right? With their recent, in the DCU, they did a fake death with Superman. So people say, well, John, how come you're not hard on DC for doing it? Well, because DC doesn't do it 2.5 times every single movie they put out. It's okay to use it. For instance, take Supernatural. Supernatural's had fake deaths. But when you average it out over the course of 14 seasons, literally 300 episodes, it's really not done all that much. And there are other things there's nothing wrong with utilizing fake deaths in your story. Where I become critical of the MCU, and I love the MCU, everybody knows that, but where I become critical of the MCU is the fact that they do it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Oh no, Nick Fury's dead. Oh no, just kidding, he's alive. Oh no, Loki's dead. Kidding, he's alive. Oh no, Loki's dead again. Kidding, he's alive. Oh no, Loki's dead again. Look, he's back. Now Gamora's dead. Oh, look, she's back, everybody. Oh, Thor died in the desert. No, Thor's alive. He's here. Oh, Black Panther died. Oh, wait, he's back at the end of the movie. He's alive. They do it over, and then ultimately, they do the ultimate fake death thing where they kill half the universe and bring them all back a little bit later anyway. I don't have a problem with a story using a fake death or two. I don't mind if you have 10 years and 300 episodes that you use it, once every 30 episodes, a fake death is used. My thing with the MCU has always been, and I've said this 1,000 times, is not the fact that they've done it, it's that they've done it over and 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 over again. Whereas the DCU hasn't done that. Star Wars hasn't done that. All these types of things. And again, we're just talking about one little element of the fake death universe, but yes, Marvel's habitual use of fake deaths is one of the hallmarks of what they are. And it's a frustrating thing to me. I still love the franchise overall. Of course I do. But that's one thing. That is definitely one thing. And bringing Palpatine back is stupid exciting. I love that. It makes so much sense as they're bringing Palpatine back. Anyway, Dimsum05 writes, we got top 10 movies, but what about top movie snacks? Mine is peanut butter M&Ms. You know what? I love peanut butter. I love peanut butter on celery sticks. I love peanut butter with chocolate, hence why I love Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and Reese's Pieces. I do not... So I was excited to try M&M's peanut butter. And I didn't like it. I don't know why. But anyway, nachos, hot dogs, and a Dr. Pepper. How about you? So long, Brad Pitt. So long, Brad Pitt body. Well said. Hey, look, when it comes to my movie theater snacks, I'm a simple guy. Butter with popcorn. Notice I didn't say popcorn with butter. Butter with popcorn and Coke Zero. That's my ritual. Now, if we're hitting a theater and I hadn't had lunch or dinner and I'm hungry, maybe I'll grab a hot dog or something like that. But generally speaking, when it comes to my movie going snacks, I'm a simple man. I like my butter with popcorn and I like a soda. So that's me. That's me. Constable Wigglesworth writes, so I just retired from the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you for your service, sir. And now I'm super bored. So here's 5 toonies for making me smile every day. Thanks, Rob, Chris, Aaron, of course, John. Cheers, eh? And cheers to you, my friend. And again, thank you for your service to our country. I appreciate that. For those of you who do not know, a toonie is a coin that is a $2 coin. We got rid of many years ago. We don't have $1 bills or $2 bills. The States doesn't have $2 bills anymore either. But we got rid of $1 bills and $2 bills a long time ago. And we replaced the $1 bill with a coin that we call a loonie. The reason we call it a loonie is because on one side of the coin is a loon, actually, is the bird. And then we got the toonie, and we just call it the toonie because it's worth $2. So yes, our smallest denomination bill in Canada is a $5 bill, as a matter of fact. So this special little Canadian economic and monetary transfer notes lesson brought to you by Constable Wigglesworth. Thank you so much, man. We're glad you're here and we're glad you're a part of this, dude. And enjoy having done your service and relaxing now, dude. I appreciate that. All right. Murray Reich writes, there is something you should know about us. I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. What does that make us? Absolutely nothing. I didn't even need to read the last part of that quote. It is, of course, Spaceballs. Whenever you mention Spaceballs, it puts a smile on my face. I love that movie so much. Absolutely nothing. Such a good moment in that movie. Oh, God, I died laughing when I saw that. All right. Royce Freeman writes, Ernie Hudson said his Ghostbusters role originally was a government worker, but was changed after he signed, and he felt it was dumbed down. Thoughts? He felt he was made more the black sidekick. And in Ghostbusters reboot, why do you think they made the black character the blue-collar worker instead of a scientist? I like the movie. I'm just wondering. Well, with Ernie Hudson, I don't know. Look, I've met Ernie, by the way. Ernie Hudson in that movie, to me, he was more like, I don't feel like Ernie was dumbed down. To me, he was the avatar for us, the audience. He was just like the regular guy put in there. And all of a sudden, like, I remember when Ernie Hudson shows up in Ghostbusters, how we saw the Ghostbusters through the audience's eyes kind of changed, because now you had these 3 characters who aren't there alone. Now they're beside a 4th guy who's kind of more a normal guy. And it changed our perception of the whole thing. So while Ernie is the guy who played the role, I would disagree with him about that. I thought his appearance in the film as the 4th Ghostbusters fundamentally altered the way we saw the group as a whole to the movie's benefit. At least that's how I always saw it. And that's why I've always liked the character. As far as Leslie Jones, why did they make the black character the blue collar worker instead of the scientist? Well, I think there's a couple things. Number one, why ask the question? Because here's what I say. Well, why did they make a white guy the stupid person in the movie? Because Chris Hemsworth was an idiot. I thought he was freaking hilarious in that movie. And look, whatever you think about that, I thought Chris Hemsworth in that movie was freaking hilarious. I thought he was really, really smart. Anyway, really, really funny. But, we're not asking the question, hey, wait a minute. Why'd they make the straight white Caucasian guy the stupid guy in the movie? We're not asking that question. Right? We're not asking that. Why'd they make the white guy the stupid guy? We don't ask that. In going amongst the Ghostbusters themselves, why did they make the black character the blue collar one? Well, look at the performers they signed to act. Leslie Jones, that's her persona. That's how she likes her persona to be. That's where she's comfortable doing. That's why she makes most of her stuff that way. And whereas you talk about something like why am I forgetting the name of the fabulous actress who's playing Cheetah? Why am I forgetting it? Hold a second. Let me bring this up. I'm going to kick myself for freezing on her name. Hold a second. Ghostbusters 2016. Kristen Wiig. As I wait. Yeah, it was Kristen Wiig. So when you look at Kristen Wiig and stuff like that, her more persona is more the nerdy, quiet or whatever. So to me, it was just a matter of fitting, the characters with who the performers were. So that's how it always stood out to me at any rate. Again, that's just how to me it stood out at any rate. And listen, all I can say is walking out, like I remember me, John Schnepp walked out of Ghostbusters and going, that wasn't great, but it wasn't all that bad. It had its moments. I had certain things that really frustrated me about the movie. It did, but it also had a lot of upside to it, I thought. Anyway, so that's just me. Okay, next one up. Tristan Riera writes, "Hey John, thank you for correcting me on Brightburn. I don't remember correcting anybody. If you're talking about the fact that I had to point out that James Gunn wasn't actually writing or directing the thing, yeah, no. But listen, you're forgiven for having that impression because they put James Gunn's name all over the marketing for that thing, even though he didn't write or direct it. But they put his name all over it, and I understand why. I'm sorry I didn't know it for you. It's all right, no problem. It's understandable. I loved it. I agree that the kid doesn't have any challenge, but to me, it was not the point of the movie. For me, the stakes were the parents to make him good or to kill him. Also, thanks for suggesting the DC Heroes role-playing game. I'm going to start a campaign in which the goal will be to stop the kid from Brightburn. Oh, well, that's interesting. Yes, listen, seriously. My favorite role-playing game of all time is actually right there. See that blue book? I know it's out of focus, but that is the Star Wars, the role-playing game, West End Games Edition, 2nd edition, which is my all-time favorite role-playing game. Not to be confused with the current iteration of the Star Wars role-playing game. The West End Games version, it's a D6 system, is my all-time favorite game. But my second all-time favorite system was a role-playing game. It was a superhero role-playing game called DC Heroes. Me and my buddies used to play that all the time. I love that thing, so do enjoy it. And I hope you have fun doing it. I hope you have fun playing it. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Tristan. Appreciate it. And have fun. Hey, listen, take a picture or two when you guys play, because if you got your hands on some of the books, I would love to see a picture or two. Email me a picture or two to john@thejohncampeashow.com, because I would love to see it. All right, let's see here. Constable Wigglesworth writes, okay, I wasn't planning on another super chat, but have you seen the trailer for Guy Ritchie's new film, The Gentleman? It looks like a solid return for him. We talked about that right off the top this morning. In case you missed the opening of the show, we talked about it off the top. I think that looks awesome. Getting back to his Snatch and Lock, Stock kind of roots. The cast looks incredible. I think that trailer looks awesome. It's all of a sudden one of my most anticipated movies. I cannot wait to watch that damn thing. That trailer looks so good. All right. Adrian McGraw writes, moved to LA last week. Have my first red carpet for Jexy on Thursday. Someday I aim to give you my resume because, like every film kid, I'm hungry for work. Well, thanks for that. And listen, when I do have openings, I let people know. I put up online, and follow me on social media, because when I am looking for somebody for some help around here, I do put it up on social media that I'm looking for somebody. So keep your eyes open on that. Make sure you follow me, and I'm at John Campea on all the social media channels. So just look for me there and enjoy your time watching Jexy. All right. Pool of Dead writes, violence is never the answer. It's the question, and the answer is yes. Also, saw drama from Entourage say, this ain't show friends, it's show business. Oh yeah, Rob never claimed to be the one who coined that phrase. Rob never claimed to be. That has been said many times in many ways by many different people. But, God, that reminded me, I liked Entourage. Entourage lost me when they went through the whole Vin is, struggling with his drug addiction. The show became so repetitive and dull that season that I gave up on it, and I never picked up on it again. To this day, I never watched the final season of Entourage. But I did watch the Entourage movie, which I thought was great, by the way. I thought the Entourage movie was really fun. But I loved Entourage right up until that point. All right, Loud Alucard writes, Lord Alucard, I should say, there will be no press at Joker premiere. Thoughts? The only difference, here's the only thing. The only difference is there's a reason I stopped going to those premieres as press, because press at the premiere, all that is, look, I guarantee you there are press going to the premiere. There are press going to the premiere. What they said they are not going to do is have red carpet press. You know, as the actors walk down the carpet and there's like 50 to 100 journalists lined up there to ask everybody one or two quick questions. It gets 20 seconds with each person as they move down the line. That's it. I guarantee you there are press that are going to be in the premiere and actually going in, but all those press on the red carpet, they don't get to go into the premiere. They don't get to go into the movie. But I guarantee you there are press who are our invited guests and are going to be in the thing. As far as no press on the red carpet, it means nothing. Like that stuff is so useless. We used to cover them all the time when I was at AMC. And I finally made the decision when I realized how utterly pointless and useless they are. I made the decision we're not going to do it. And that was one of the first kind of struggles and tug of wars between me and AMC. Was they're like, yes, we're invited to be on the red carpet. You go cover the red carpet. I'm like, no, we're not going to go cover the red carpet because there's no value to it. You get 20 seconds to ask some stupid fluff question. They don't even want to talk to you and you don't want to be there. You're standing there in this little space that's literally about this wide, shoulder to shoulder, crammed in with all these other journalists beside you. And you get to ask one stupid little question and you're standing there for 3.5 hours waiting for somebody to come down so you can get 20 seconds with them. You're going to get nothing useful, nothing beneficial, and nobody cares. Nobody watches our videos with our red carpet coverage. Nobody watches them. And when I would do them, I would do my very best. I would do everything I could to make it really interesting and fun, but they were just stupid and useless. And so ultimately I stopped doing it. So what question, besides, if you have that press line on the red carpet, what questions are they going to ask? You know you're just going to get 50 questions about what do you think about the controversy and blah, blah, blah. It's like, what's the point of that? It's been covered. There's no need to have it. Just let the stars show up. Let them pose for the photography press, which they did have photography press. So let the photography press shoot their shots as you pose in front of the step and repeat. And then just let the stars walk down the red carpet and get into the theater. So I'm all for it. And I'm all for if they just get rid of press on the red carpet altogether, period, because there's nothing useful comes out of it. But some press are always invited to the premieres themselves. So that still happened. I know some press people that went to the premiere. There just wasn't red carpet stuff. So to me, it's a moot point because red carpet stuff is totally useless anyway. Anyway. Mr. Nobody writes, hey guys, I just want to drop my 10 favorite films. All right, here we go. Number 1, Pulp Fiction. Number 2, Braveheart. That should be on more people's lists. Number 3, Unforgiven. Number 4, Godfather 1 and 2. Number 5, Shawshank Redemption. Number 6, Apocalypse Now. Number 7, The Matrix makes it up there. Number 8, Terminator 1 and 2. Number 9, City of God. That's not on enough people's lists either. That's a good one. Number 10, True Romance. You know what's funny? Somebody wrote in True Romance the other day. Mr. Nobody. Somebody wrote in True Romance. By the way, what a great character that is. Somebody wrote in True Romance. I remember, I think it's the first time I've seen True Romance. And I think it's that's the second time in a couple of days I've seen somebody put in True Romance. Nice list, sir. I mean, that's not necessarily my top 10, but man, your top 10 has a lot of films that are in my top 30. A lot of similarities between your top 10 and my top 30. So yeah, nice one. All right, Jake Iyer writes, hi, John. Hello, Jake. I hope Robert is still there with you when you get this question. He is not, unfortunately. You just missed him. I wanted to get his opinion on what films to start a 4K ultra high definition Blu-ray disc collection with. Also, you did a great job as commissioner. Well, unfortunately, Rob is not here. Rob would tell you any of them, but he would also probably tell you it's not a great time to start because physical media is going away. So if you're going to start, one of the things he would probably encourage you to is start quick because this stuff's not going to be available. I mean, look, it's not going anywhere in the next few months, but over the course of the next couple of years, it's going to disappear. So if you're going to get started on it, Jake, Get started quickly. All right. And Rob does a great job with everything he does, just to be clear. All right. Lone Wolf X6 writes, or FX6 writes, it's October, Arrowverse and Supernatural return. That's true. Yeah, all the shows are coming back. I don't watch a lot of regular... One of the shows I've watched, and I don't know why I like this one. I don't watch any other shows like it. I got a little bit hooked on that show Chicago PD. Not to be confused with Chicago Fire or Chicago Med, but Chicago PD. I like that show. And so, as I turned on Hulu the other day, looking for something else, I was like startled to see new episode, Chicago PD. I'm like, wait a minute, what? It's back? And it's like, oh yeah, it's October. All the shows are coming back. That's true. It's going to be interesting to see as this Arrowverse season starts and we build up to the big Crisis crossover. The countdown's begun, and it's the final season of Supernatural. Final season of Supernatural. All right, ZOMG Ruler writes, $2 still in the U.S. I have one. They are limited, though. But, I know they probably exist, but do they still, do they still make them? Do they still make them? That's interesting. Do they still actually make them? Anyway, popcorn pet peeve. The kernels always get stuck between the teeth. So irritating. Almost forgot dibs. Oh, dibs are good too. But you're right. I swear to God, it doesn't matter how much I brush my teeth. Like after I go to a movie, somebody's saying that I missed a super chat. Hold on a second. Let me go back and see. Oh, I missed a couple of super chats. You know why? Because there was the jump. Sorry. Give me a moment. I'll go back to this. I didn't recognize that. Every day there's all of a sudden a big jump and the thing goes down and I missed the jump. So sorry about it. Don't worry. I'll go back. All right. But let me finish this popcorn pet peeve one. I swear to God, when I come from a movie, it doesn't matter how thoroughly, and I use the electric toothbrush, all that kind of stuff. I then do the mouthwash, some flossing. It does not matter. The next day, almost every time, I'll wake up and there'll be some little shred of a kernel skin. I'll realize somewhere in my mouth. It doesn't matter how thoroughly I could take industrial strength, whatever. And it doesn't matter. That is a frustrating thing about the popcorn. Okay. Sorry. There was a jump. And I missed a few here. So let me go back here. Okay, after Jake Eyre, then we got Hoser Miaz writes, Percy Jackson book was awesome. The movies are okay. I never read the Percy Jackson books, but I'll tell you what, I like the Percy Jackson movies, particularly the first one. I enjoyed those movies. They weren't the next Harry Potter per se, but I thought they were fun. Sean Bean's in them too. I thought they were fun little movies, as a matter of fact. All right. Mr. TH3W4LRUS writes, love the show. Thank you so much. Thoughts on the Avengers de-aging Captain America if needed. Already done in Endgame while testing the time machine with Scott. Look, Chris Evans doesn't look all that different today than he did when they started making the movies. So I don't see there being a need at this point to digitally de-age him, honestly. I think he still looks too similar to the way he did a few years ago. So I think if they want to have Captain America back, I don't think there's any need for them to de-age him. I don't think at this point, at any rate. So, because like in Endgame, after he shaves off the beard and everything, it's like, holy crap, he looks like 15 years younger. So I really don't think there's a need to do anything like that. William Fournier just sends in a super chat. Thank you, William. Appreciate that. ZOMG Ruler writes, Nostalgic Critics review of Pink Floyd's The Wall is hated. I don't care what another film critic's thing of a movie is. What did you think of Pink Floyd's The Wall movie? I can't even remember it. It's been so long. Oh God, that thing was so long ago. I don't even remember a single thing. I know I saw it, but I can't remember a single thing about it. Hideaway Killer writes, am I the only one that loves Battleship? I want a second. I'm going to say Hideaway Killer, you are not the only one that loved Battleship, but it would be a very small exclusive club of you that watched it, or that enjoyed it, I should say. It would be a very, very small exclusive club. That movie lost the studio hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars that thing cost the studio. And if I wanted to look up, just out of curiosity, I have to look up the Rotten Tomatoes meaning. That movie was awful. I mean, I thought that movie was all sorts of terrible. Actually, it's got a better Rotten Tomato score than I thought. 34%. And remember, that means like about 1 out of every 3 critics that saw it actually didn't mind it. At 34%, that means 1 out of every 3. And I'll be honest with you, that is a way higher number than I thought it would be. Man, I hated that movie. I thought that movie was so bad. But hey, I've got lots of movies that I love that everybody else thinks are ridiculous. So treasure those movies, Hideaway. Treasure those movies. They become your guilty pleasures. All right. Johan writes, thoughts on the show based on the songs of Billy Joel. Does it get greenlit or does it get scrapped like the John Mayer show? Yeah, so I heard it was just the other day. I was listening to sports talk radio and the guys just happened to bring up that someone's trying to develop a show where the show itself is going to be based on the music of Billy Joel. And I know nothing else about it other than that. Other than it's like, I could see doing a movie if you want it. That's unique in and of its own. But to do a TV show that's based on the music of Billy Joel, that's intriguing. I don't know. I don't know anything else about it, so I don't know how else to formulate other than that's a pretty original thought. Valhalla Erickson writes, do you have a favorite TV show that you'd like to see get a revival one day? For me, the obvious answer would be Firefly. Yeah, I mean, I loved Firefly. It's never going to happen, though. It's not going to happen. Although it would be awesome. Oh my God, that would be awesome, but it won't happen. Yes. But it's not a very popular one, but it's we talked about the other day. It's called Awake, and I've talked about this show a bunch recently. It stars Jason Isaacs, who is Malfoy's dad in the Harry Potter thing, and he's on Star Trek Discovery, and he's the voice of the Emperor Skeksis in the new Dark Crystal thing. Anyway, I love Jason Isaacs. He was in the show called Awake, and I would love for them to revive that, even though it's only been off the air for a couple of years now. Oh, God, I wanted to see where that show was going to go. Damn, I wanted to see where that show was going to go. Randy J. writes, if James Gunn's Suicide Squad is a success, do you think Marvel will have him make a Thunderbolts film? And do you think we'll see Red Hulk soon? I don't see how one has anything to do with the other, Randy, to be honest with you. I don't see how what Thunderbolts has anything to do with Suicide Squad. I don't see the success or failure of a DC movie in a different cinematic universe with a different marketing team and a different executive team has to do with what they would want to do with James Gunn. He's already doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I'll just be straight up with you, Randy. I see no connection there whatsoever. I don't see how one will in any way affect the possibilities. And by the way, I don't generally do you think X director will do X movie? I don't generally do those anyway, but I don't see how there's any sort of connection or any connective tissue at all between what happens with a Warner Brothers DC movie about one thing versus a theoretical movie that maybe Marvel could do in the future and how that would somehow tie into James Gunn. So I honestly just don't see any connective tissue there myself. All right. Min Tran writes, Judy is great. I'm hearing great things about it. Renee Zellweger is amazing. She usually is. Fun fact, Lyanna Mormont is in it, and I barely write. Really? Little Lady Mormont. She's so good. I'm excited. You know what's funny? I love her in Game of Thrones, and I haven't even thought to look for what else she's been in since. But knowing that she's in Judy just kind of increases my desire to go and see it. So it's good to know. Jack Dries writes, hype for the Campea / Garner, hyped for the Campea Garner Hall Pass 2011 remake. There you go. Of course, there already was a movie called Hall Pass, yes, which is an all right little comedy. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. But yes, John Campea, Jennifer Garner. I think this is a movie that just prints its own money. Jennifer Garner's agent, if you were watching this, make this movie happen. I'm telling you, it's printing your own money. All right. Min Tran writes, when I saw Ad Astra, my friends and I were really bored. However, the group next to us was glued to their seats. I think that's a great representation of the reactions to Ad Astra. There are people who absolutely love this movie. And I can see why. All the elements are there for a movie to love. For me, it just wasn't executed well and became incredibly boring and a snooze fest and dull, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean there aren't other people who completely loved it and adored it. And I think, Min, your seating situation there is a great representation of the overall stuff about the show, about the movie. Absolutely. Lone Wolf X6. Oh, and now we're all caught up. Oh, no. Are we? Yeah, we're caught up now. Okay, yeah, so I think I got to all the questions. I think I got all of them now. All right, guys, we actually got through all the questions today. Amazing. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Special thanks to, of course, Chris Carr and Robert Meyer Burnett for being here and being wonderful the way that they are. Special thank you to all of you guys who are watching the show today, making a part of the film fan community, being such a fun place to be. And a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions, not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but also because you supported the show while you were doing it. And all of us here at the John Campea Show, thank you for that. All right, guys, don't forget, 15 minutes after we're done this broadcast, for those of you who are Patreon supporters, I'm hopping over into the Discord server. We'll have our John Campea Show post-show chat. Make sure you guys join me over there. And don't forget, guys, the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow, Joker Day tomorrow. Make sure you guys come back and join us for that. And hey, guys, listen, while you're here, if you want to do something for the channel, a couple things you can do. Number one, click the subscribe button, become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. Click the thumbs up button if you like these sorts of discussions and these sorts of topics. All that sort of interaction really does help the channel out a lot. And make sure you leave your thoughts on any or all of the topics that we discussed here today in the comments section below. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.